Welcome to the Mothman in the Bible Belt podcast with your host, Buck Fantastic.
Girl Scout cookies.
When people think of West Virginia agriculture, many think hay, corn, cattle, and chickens. Those are the big crops and livestock grown and raised in the mountain state. Mushrooms are a niche crop in West Virginia. Few people grow them commercially. Hernshaw Farms owner George Patterson is trying to change that. Patterson started his mushroom enterprise on a former strip mine in Hernshaw in 2018. Patterson grows around 20 varieties of gourmet mushrooms that are shipped all across the country, primarily to restaurants in West Virginia. You can also purchase his mushrooms online and occasionally at the Capitol Market in Charleston. On this episode of the Mothman and the Bible Belt podcast, George Patterson talks mushrooms, growing his business, and gives his opinion on whether or not the West Virginia legislature should decriminalize magic mushrooms in the state. Patterson also chimes in on medical cannabis startup requirements. Join me, your host, Buck Fantastic, for another exciting episode of the Mothman and the Bible Belt podcast. It's fun-tastic. So, George, you're a Charleston, West Virginia native, right?
I am indeed.
What got you into mushroom farming?
Well, I honestly was looking for solutions for things to do on mine sites. And I found one, but now I'm in a tunnel on an old highway tunnel, so we come a long way from there. So that was a pretty huge move. The move was incredibly stressful. So we moved from the mine site into the tunnel. The guard offered us that opportunity, and I'd always wanted to actually pump air out of a mine somewhere into a warehouse or something, and I thought, well, why not just move into an underground tunnel? Luckily, there's a mine right there next to the tunnel because, in West Virginia, a mine's about a stone's throw away if you got a good arm. And luckily, we're going to try to start doing some more experiments there. So we're trying to keep up doing our work in reclamation and then with some other special projects that we're doing too.
So this is the Memorial Tunnel that's near Paint Creek?
Yeah, it's the old highway tunnel. The National Guard was previously using it for training purposes, and now we're luckily able to take advantage of its geothermal properties to really output and crank out some mushrooms. So, we're really only one of 3, I think, in the world total that I can find mushroom tunnels. So it's a really, really cool opportunity, and I think it's a huge thing for West Virginia. And I'm hoping that it'll be a huge, boon to the local economy. So I'm hoping that we can really create a lot of jobs and, do our best to get a lot of local mushrooms in a lot of local places and across, the Appalachian region. I mean, and already the country. So we're really grateful for that opportunity to be in there, to be able to do that.
So since you moved from Hernshaw, are you going to change the name of your business?
That's that I've been wrangling with is so much. Honestly, I mean, Hernshaw is where it started, and people already know that name. And I got a lot of T-shirts and stickers printed out, So, it's a big expense to change. But honestly, I mean, I find it hard to leave the name Hernshaw just because we've sort of developed under that brand. I mean, and I think that the people of Hernshaw would are proud of us, So I think that they would let us use that name.
Are you the only commercial grower in the area?
There are a couple other commercial growers out there in the state. I do think that we are possibly the largest. We produce a fair amount of mushrooms, anything from shiitake to lion's mane. And we have weekly customers, local customers, and then we also have a really large internet following where we ship orders off all over the country every month. So that's a big part of our business. But yeah, in terms of in the area, there's a couple other farmers. A lot of them are my friends. Julie Share with WVSU. She's got some mushroom logs growing in her backyard, So there's all sorts of people out there growing mushrooms.
Yeah, I saw that you have mushrooms in local restaurants like 1010 Bridge Restaurant, Coco's Kitchen and Cafe, the Venetian Estate, Ichiban Pan Asian Cuisine. Are there any plans of setting up a stationary storefront anytime soon?
Honestly, yeah. So I really want to put a storefront in at the tunnel. There's this really cool room with a lot of windows, and it's essentially, uh, I think where the turnpike used to maybe have offices or something. I guess they would watch over the cars. I don't know. It's a beautiful room, but it's and it's really a historic spot. I think a lot of people would love to come and visit. So we're really working to try to get that done. So right now it's just an empty storefront. So I have a long way to go, but we hope to feature a lot of local products there, and sort of have it as part of an on farm store. So that's sort of next. Kind of similar to what our friends in Malden have at JQ Dickinson Salt Works, one of our really big customers and longtime supporters, and we'd love to feature their products and similar products as well. So
How did you go about raising the capital for Hernshaw Farms?
the capital for Hernshaw Farms.
Yeah,
My parents helped tremendously.
that's a plus.
So they really invested in me. Yeah, yeah, they really did. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. But we started with one shipping container, and we started with cash flow running. So the shipping containers were actually pretty cheap then. Now they're really expensive. But we went from producing in one container to then be able to use the uh, to another container to the next. So we started with by getting blocks from Pennsylvania before we made them ourselves to kind of get the cash flow going and to test the market. I wanted to see, will people really buy these crazy mushrooms in Charleston, West Virginia? And honestly, the overwhelming answer seemed to be no at the time. Hands down, it was really wasn't no. I got rejected so many times, but now it's as we're sort of established. I have people calling me, which is crazy, to go from that to that. So we're really lucky to be in that position, and it's because of a lot of hard work from a lot of different people over number of years. I've had good teams, and we kind of try to nurture and mentor and be a place for growth for a person. I think that's the way to kind of run a company culture, and that's a lot of what we're doing.
You got technical assistance from West Virginia State University Extension Service, right?
I
Up and
love
going.
WVSU. There was a guy called Mike Easter, and I called around to all the colleges to try to figure out basically, what do I do? And Mike Easter was the one that gave me the idea to, sort of hit the ground running with getting blocks from Pennsylvania to test, to test it out. And then we learned how to make the blocks ourselves, eventually. Mike was really pivotal and helpful in his advice, and he's still a long-term friend. So, and everybody at WVSU since has been absolutely incredible.
What was the startup cost for getting Hernshaw Farms up and running? Was it modest compared, since you're a small ag business?
Yeah, I mean it wasn't as bad as you'd think. I mean, um, compared to my education, it was way less, Um, but the growth aspect was great at the time. Shipping containers were relatively affordable, and it was easy and cost effective to scale the business on cash flow. So the way that we did that was was really really good. So, and that's sort of what we're still doing. We're expanding, bootstrapping the tunnel project. So we're using our own cash flow to grow, and I think that's really good because sometimes if you try to grow a business too fast, I've done it because I've tried to grow this business too fast. Things can go wrong. So doing things slowly, taking your time, making the right decision, that's really key to the success.
Did you pursue any USDA grants or cost share programs?
I think I did get a pandemic USDA something. That one was good. We've honestly, I've tried to mainly do most of it through cash flow, but I do know that those are great programs, and they're really, if anyone's looking to get started in a business, is something to look at.
You mentioned a few of the mushrooms, but you grow nearly 20 varieties, correct?
I think so. Honestly, I had to. We're redesigning our survey system, and I had to count them all, and that was something. There are quite a few.
What's your
So
most popular?
lion's mane seems to be the thing. It's really really good for you. Tastes great, mild, and it helps your brain function. So it's really really popular.
What's the easiest mushroom variety to grow?
The easiest is oyster. If you're looking to start and you're trying to get into mushroom growing, I think oyster is a great place to start.
I saw on the internet a recipe when I was Googling mushroom dishes. People who make traditional chitlins, they substitute the pig innards for oyster mushrooms. Have you ever tried those?
Nice. I have
Yeah,
not tried those. I need to give it a try. Let's get some pig chitlins. I like some mushroom
yeah.
chitlins. It sounds good.
Vegan chitlins.
You need to we need to get together and make sons. There we go. That would be a good time. Would be a good
Healthy.
time.
Talk about healthy.
Healthy, you can't go wrong with some vegan chitlins.
Yeah. What sets your mushrooms apart from the store-bought variety?
Well, they don't. Well, you really can't find them in the stores. The only variety that we grow that you can find in Kroger is the shiitake mushroom and the uh, lion's mane mushroom, the pioppino mushroom, the chestnut mushroom, the pink oyster mushroom, blue oyster mushroom, gold oyster mushroom, uh, reishi mushroom. Man, did I say Pioppino, Namico, Beach? These are some of the different varieties we grow. There's so many, but you can't find those in the grocery store. So, you know, that's that's really the difference. I mean, they're gourmet and they're delicious and they have different texture. They're like nothing you've had really before, unless you've
I
had
bought some
them.
of your oysters a few years ago. I thought it would be easy to prepare them. I usually take traditional button mushrooms, chop them up, mix them together with rice and seasoning, and microwave them. I tried the oyster variety, and they didn't get all mushy and gushy. What's the best way to prepare these specialty mushrooms? Obviously, microwave
Well,
has its drawbacks.
yeah, don't microwave them. It does. Oh man, just get a skillet out and get some garlic. I get a little bit of olive oil and then some salt and some pepper. And give them a little fry. That's all you got to do. You can put some soy sauce in there, maybe some teriyaki. You know, a little bit of that. But really, that's all you need. Just keep it
What
simple.
what is your favorite mushroom dish?
You know, honestly, I had mushrooms at and onions at DT Prime the other day, and it was delicious. I took them on that stone that they have there, and I cooked them in this sauce that I have no idea what sauce it is, but Dave has this amazing sauce. It's the Wonder Sauce, Dave's sauce, and you cook them in there a little bit, and man, they were absolutely delicious. So picking one dish is hard, and also it kind of changes for me, you know, from time to time. I really like fried rice. I love to cook fried rice. I had a friend in high school was from China that cooked fried rice, and the way he did it was uh, so very interesting, and it's delicious. So you know, you put a little oil on the pan. You always use day old or older rice. You know, and the idea is fried rice is traditionally something that they use for leftovers. So it's not you know, it's whatever you got in the fridge. So if you've got some mushrooms in the fridge, that's great. Saute them up in a little bit of olive oil and some soy sauce and put them in with the fried rice. You take a little, uh, you know, oil on the pan. Then you take the fried rice. Then you take the eggs. Then you take the peppers. Right. You cook the peppers separately first, of course, and you put all these ingredients in. It's kind of a hodgepodge, and it ends up usually being wonderful. Just make sure to use a little bit of teriyaki sauce, and also cook the eggs separately. So
I try, but it just never turns out the way. It always gets too oily and soggy. But now I know that I should let my rice sit for a day and maybe hopefully or a day or two, maybe it will not be so mushy, gushy, and clumpy.
yeah, the reason so it sticks to the pan if it's fresh rice, and then you're left with this like weird residue. But older rice is, you know, it has this. way of pulling off the pan, so you can cook with it way easier. So that's really really vital to making fried rice. And then also just using what you have. It doesn't have to be anything special.
What's the ideal growing conditions for mushrooms?
Well, the tunnel's great. You just need humidity, and you need uh, a little bit of light, and then warmth, temperature, or cooling, air conditioning. The tunnel's nice because it has a stable temperature all year round because it's underground, so it's natural geothermal temperature, and it's already pretty humid in there. And the blocks kind of produce their own heat. So while it's 55 degrees, it needs to be a little bit warmer. But inside the containers, they generate a little bit more heat, and they're able to produce, which is really a beautiful thing. So it's entirely natural, but you'll have to control CO2, and you have to control uh, humidity. So you have to make sure that the humidity stays at a certain percentage at all time. And the tunnel, for the most part, stays at that constant humidity. So does the temperature. So it's stable. And the box and using we just took the Connex boxes we were using on the mines and put them in the tunnel. So they generate their own heat through the blocks, right? And the
Mhm.
heat kind of controls uh, controls them, so
So you're talking
regulates
about
the
high
temperature
humidity or
itself.
low
So
humidity?
high humidity for fruiting mushrooms. The humidity has to be higher at the pinning stage, and then at the fruiting stage, it has to be around 90%. But you kind of aim for 95% to get them to pin. So the pins need oxygen and humidity to initiate, so to trigger the sawdust blocks that we fill with grain spawn and seal and let colonize for for depending on the species, 22 to 65 days, or depending on the amount of spawn used, you can get them to do it a lot quicker. So they colonize, and they sit in a warmer space, and then they go to the fruiting area where they are exposed to high humidity and oxygen. When the way they're exposed to oxygen is by slicing the bag. So the oxygen exposure then triggers pins, and then you have fruiting bodies.
Have you tried cultivating molly mushers?
Not yet. The Chinese are way ahead on that. They started cultivating in 2014, and they've been doubling in size pretty much ever since. And then you look at the Danish morel project, where they have successfully cultivated morels indoors. But and they say they can do it actually at the cost to produce a uh, white button mushroom. And then you look at the Chinese project, and it seems like they're using some sort of symbiotic growth, where they're growing the molly moochers together with these plants. Anyways, they haven't shared their secrets with me yet, but I've been trying to watching all the videos to see what I can learn. You know, but when I do, I guess I'll if I figure out how to grow them, I'll retire.
It's a popular
I don't
species in
know.
West
That
Virginia.
was a pretty good feat. Yeah, it is. I mean, they occur here naturally, and they're really good. They're tasty.
Do you use soil from the local area, or do you like have it shipped in from out of state or for use in the mushrooms?
Uh, we get our we get our soybean hull from Ohio, which is pretty close, but we pick it up in West Virginia at Yager's Farm Supply, and we get our wood fuel pellets from there. And I think they get their wood fuel pellets from Kingwood, West Virginia. So that's we use Master's Mix, and that's our main substrate. And we're looking at using other soils here soon, maybe, and uh, trying to test some other things out to see what we can do.
You've gone from selling mushrooms to selling honey, olive oil, mushroom kits, lavender body cream, mushroom seasoning. What new products do you have coming our way next? Anything you can pitch?
Next, we're actually yeah, yeah, we're looking at introducing our mushroom tinctures. We've been out of stock for those for a while. So we're hoping to reinvigorate that. Really, the pin pot is the new thing I've been trying to promote, but we've developed so many products. It's crazy. It's hard to keep up with. So but everything's made in house, but it's pretty cool. So it's all our own pretty unique product line, and we love featuring other local artisans that really go well with mushrooms. What's better with mushrooms than detrapino olive oil? You get a bag of dried mushrooms, rehydrate them, and then fry them in some detrapino olive oil, and everything's okay. So
Now, is that
you know,
grown in the state or
life's pretty good.
is the olive oil grown? Was the olives?
All that
Oh, they don't grow in West Virginia, do they?
no, their olive oil is from Italy, but Leah DiTrapano's family
Oh,
has a vineyard there, and she's local. Yeah, so but it's really really good. And then we also sell our mushroom salt combination. So we have local JQ Dickinson salt, and then we have our mushrooms. So that's an absolute local collaboration, so that we're really really excited about. And then we have some awesome local maple syrup on there. So yeah, all sorts of local products on our website.
does mushroom growing require a lot of manpower
A lot of manpower.
when you're doing it on a commercial scale?
Depends on how many hours you want to work in the day. I don't know. Yeah, it does require a lot of manpower. And we're trying to scale up and create more jobs. So that's the hope that it becomes a contributor, an economic contributor to the local area.
Were you all close to that where that spill occurred around Paint Creek a few weeks ago, where that
Oh
alcohol
yeah.
demethylene?
Yeah, we didn't use water that day. Luckily, that's the cool thing about the tunnel. The uh uh the tunnel has a natural humidity, from the rain soaking in.
Hmm.
So, we don't actually have to water the mushrooms every day, and they're fine. It's really, really cool. Actually, I got a complaint from a chef that Chef Paul complained that they were too wet, and I was like, man, yeah, it's because we're watering them so much. They're already exposed to the natural humidity. But yeah, the mushrooms actually, I think, could have cleaned up that spill. Amines are naturally absorbed by mushrooms. Some mushroom compost would have been great. I just don't I didn't know quite who to call, but the spent blocks would be great at absorbing that sort of thing. Yeah, but
Yep.
luckily it didn't affect us. Thank goodness. I was so worried, but I got the notification on my phone before we went into work, so all's well.
How does an agriculture operation like yours protect consumers from environmental polluters like that? Should something go wrong, how do you keep bad things from contaminating your
That's
product?
a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. We test a lot. So we test the water. That's the way to do that. But I really wish that we use mushrooms for more environmental problems, and we're working on that. So I hope that we can uh, you know do that.
Yeah, you hear about
To
using
really use
mushrooms
mushrooms
for
to
heavy metal
help solve those.
remediation. That's what I was told, that they were using it on like mine sites to help soak up some of the heavy metal, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
they absorb heavy metals. No, it's cool. They're doing it in Colorado, I think, and then they're doing it in Oklahoma. It's really neat. So
Our neighbors to the north, Pennsylvania, are the largest mushroom producer in the country, producing around half the mushrooms our country consumes. Do you think West Virginia could possibly top Pennsylvania in years to come, mushroom wise?
oh yeah, we're gonna do it, man. Watch out. I think that we could really contribute, to the local economy by bringing the mushroom industry here, and that's what we hope to do, is be a part of that.
Oregon and California decriminalize psilocybin mushrooms for mental health treatment, and several other U.S. cities have decriminalized the magic mushroom as well. Do you think West Virginia should be on the list to decriminalize next?
I think that's really up to the voters to decide, you know, um, and the politicians to decide. But I do think that there are some really great studies that people should be paying attention to, that point to the beneficial uses of mushrooms of all kinds, even the ones that we sell, like reishi mushrooms, that are good for arthritis, and things like that. And lion's mane, that's good for your brain. There are some great natural benefits to mushrooms that people really should experience. And I think that, and with the right oversight and the right doctors, I think there's a lot to be accomplished. And I think they're doing some great work at places like John Hopkins, and uh, and in California, where they're doing that sort of thing, where they're experimenting and seeing where mushrooms can benefit society.
They help people with severe mental health issues. That's a positive compared to all the drugs you see on the market, which you hear they're popular one moment, then you hear that they're causing suicide the next. Would you be interested in growing magic mushrooms if they were to become decriminalized in the state?
I would I would go and see. I don't know. I'd have to see what the numbers were. I don't know how I don't know how they would structure that. What the permitting would be like. What there's a whole lot to it. So I'd be interested to see how that all played out.
There's a lot of red tape around cannabis in the state. What's your thoughts on the state legislature mandating that cannabis growers and processors must have $2 million in capital and at least 500,000 in the bank to operate in West Virginia?
Oh, you know how it is. It's interesting, to think that they do these sort of things to kind of keep a closed loop on the system, and it's not necessarily fair. But you also have to look at places like in Oklahoma, right? I think that's Oklahoma, where they have basically enabled everyone to produce, and it caused the market to essentially crash. So, I mean, I do think that they need to, serve as a market regulator to free market capitalism. I think that the state government should try its best to encourage the free market, but also to not allow any one player to become too big. And that's
Amen.
the way that I think it should work.
Yeah, it's a barrier for people who want to get into agriculture to actually grow and process the stuff, but who don't have the money. I mean, it could dig a lot of people, especially in the southern part of the state, out of the poorhouse, where poverty, especially generational poverty, is huge.
Yeah, no, I mean, and there's certain aspects like that, where you got to consider. I think where people are allowed to have their own plant is it makes sense. I mean, I can have a tomato plant in my yard. I can also choose to go buy tomatoes at the store. That's the way it also should be. So
Yeah. If there weren't so many barriers to growing, processing, and selling cannabis in West Virginia, would you be interested in growing the medicinal herb on top of mushrooms?
no, actually, no, no, not really. I like mushrooms. I'll stick with them. I think that that's so competitive. Uh, there's all everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to grow mushrooms. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a real niche for it here in West Virginia. I remember a few years back when they decriminalized hemp. Everybody was growing hemp for the seed, and it went bust. But you don't hear a lot about people growing it for the fiber, and that's a shame. We should be growing hemp for fiber, but I'm hearing that there's no places in West Virginia currently to process the hemp for cloth and concrete and all that good stuff. What sage business advice would you give to future agpreneurs to help them make their businesses more marketable and profitable?
I think be yourself, but show it. Figure out ways to bring people to the product by being yourself.
People can't currently buy your mushrooms in any grocery stores.
Check out General Steak and Seafood on the corner of Brooks and Coyer if you're in Charleston. And then check out our online website or JQ Dickinson Saltworks in Malden. Really, we sell direct to consumers, so we'll have it shipped into your door as soon as we can.
Milton has a pumpkin festival. Buchanan has a strawberry festival. Any plans of having a mushroom festival in Charleston or Hernshaw or Marmet? Is that on the horizon?
Maybe in Paint Creek one of these days. That sounds like a good idea. Oh man, mushroom festival one of these days. That's for sure.
So are you leasing the tunnel or are you buying it or?
Yeah, I saw someone on Facebook said that Hernshaw Farms is purchasing the Memorial Tunnel, and I was like, wow, that's how fake news spreads. And no, we're just leasing it with working with our friends at the National Guard and Patriot Gardens program. So it's sort of a collaborative project to see if it'll work, and it's working pretty well.
So does the National Guard keep it up? Like if it were to crack or fall in or something like that? Or are you responsible for those repairs?
I don't think I am. Oh man, but it's I talked to the structural engineer the other day that looked at the tunnel and a few years back, a couple of years back, and he said everything was good. So I was reassured by that. He
So are y'all
called me wanting
utilizing
to
the
have some
entire
students to
tunnel
come
or
in, but
just a portion of it?
just a portion, just the front part. So the rest of it, they're working. There's still training exercises set up that I think they're working on removing, but I'm not sure.
If you're interested in purchasing Hernshaw Farms gourmet mushrooms and grow kits, check out www.hernshawfarms.com. I want to thank my special guest, George Patterson, for coming on the Mothman in the Bible Belt podcast and taking us on a magical mushroom journey. Hopefully, some of you listeners might be inspired to start up your own ag business venture after listening to this podcast episode. What do you have to lose? The USDA offers up several grants, cost share programs, and loans to help agripreneurs get started. For Mothman in the Bible Belt podcast outlet updates, guest bios, and direct links to social media, please check us out on the web at www.mothmaninthebiblebelt.com. Thanks for listening.